Come on, you can do it, YouTube.
So Don, where are you this evening?
At home, Vegas.
Are you still in the same place from way back, the casita and everything, all that?
No, we sold that February last. So we moved to a condo downtown, so right off Fremont Street, in December 2017, and then February 2018 we sold the house.
So why? Just to be closer in, or?
No, a little bit of a downsize. The house was getting older and was starting to need maintenance, and like we just don't need a house that big. We'd always planned on doing that. We moved about 5 years early, and the market was just at a really, really good spot money wise for it.
Mm-hmm. Man, that's too bad though. I love that house. That was an awesome place.
Yeah, we enjoyed it. The new people will probably enjoy it too.
No doubt.
So it looks like we're streaming live now. I think we're good.
Hopefully. I'm looking at us, and it says waiting.
It says you are live. The internet can totally see you now.
I'll wait, and I know there's going to be a delay usually, but it says waiting. PowerScripting podcast. 6 waiting. No, it's still just sitting there. I don't know, man.
Does that link work that I just put in?
Okay, I will try it.
Slack.
If it does work, that's unfortunate. Oh, hey! That link is much better. Let me mute it. So that means, therefore, that we need to tell people that I just screwed up. My bad.
Okay, good. My voice is in my channel. Your voice is in your channel. It's all very good.
Excellent.
Why do I have your name under Don?
What? I don't know.
What the hell am I doing?
Why are you so small?
Because...
Why is Don square? Hey, Don, how's it going?
Because Skype.
You're looking rather distinguished.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to seeing you in person next week.
Yeah, it's going on
next week.
To PowerShell and DevOps Summit.
That sounds pretty cool. Man, I'm so out of the loop. Not even funny.
You know that mic works better if you talk into it.
What, this one?
Yeah, that one.
Okay. Is this better?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Hey guys, it's been a while. All right. Now, my name's there. Your name's there. Okay, that works. I mean, you're tiny, Jonathan.
Yeah, it's the best I can do.
With that?
Yeah, it's fine.
I don't want to, little.
I'm not insecure about my size. Should not have said that out loud. Sorry.
Don Jones, how you doing, man?
Doing well. Keeping busy.
I have not seen or heard from you. I mean, it's my fault, right? It's not your fault, but it's been a while. It's been a while.
It has.
So, so are you still? I'm going to basically mention things from 6 years ago and see if they're still current. Are you still at Pluralsight?
Yeah. I actually, end of last year, I took a promotion to vice president for our content partnerships.
Oh, okay. Awesome. So does that involve basically working directly with the company or something that's going to produce the content related to their staff?
Yeah, vaguely.
Business development.
There's instances where that happens. We work that way with Google Cloud Platform. Microsoft Azure, we have a partnership where we build the content for them, and we host it in our platform, and then they pay to give it away free to their customers. So every partnership's kind of unique and different and fun.
That's interesting. So who gets the Azure content? Is it free for everybody?
Azure subscribers. There's a way to get to it from inside the portal.
That's kind of slick. Subscribe to Azure, get free training content that they pay you to produce?
Yeah, we produce it, and then they fund making it available for free.
Okay, that's pretty neat. So is it done by in-house people, or is it still by the usual Pluralsight arrangement of you've got your staff, your cadre of contractors?
It's by our authors, yeah. So, John Savile's done a bunch of them. Tim Warner, Greg Shields did a couple. Simon Allardyce did some. It's a big list. There's a lot of courses. There's probably by the end of this year there'll be over 200.
So and that's one of the kind of amazing things about the public cloud platforms is that it's not one product, man. It's 100 products, if not a couple products.
Yeah, and we've built out roles for administrator, security engineer, developer, or data engineer. Like there's all these different roles, and every role has 30, 40 courses associated with it because they're fairly chunky topics.
Mm-hmm. Is it something where you can pick that? And I guess you've got a bit of a roadmap. Complete these.
Yep.
Complete these. Okay.
Yep.
I like that. So, is there any kind of general Pluralsight news over the past year or so, as far as platforms or features or?
Well, we went public last year, about the middle of the year. So that was very exciting. In August, we rolled out a feature called Role IQ. So we already had something called Skill IQ, and a skill is HTML or PowerShell, right? Mm-hmm. And skills are fine, but what the boss really needs is you to fill a role that requires multiple skills. So it's HTML, CSS, JavaScript, blah, 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 or it's it's PowerShell and some HashiCorp stuff and TeamCity, right? It's all the skills for your DevOps toolchain. Okay. And so Skill IQ, each skill is a roughly 20 question adaptive skill assessment. Mm-hmm. And it gives you a score, and it compares you to other people who have passed the assessment. And so it tells you about where your skills sit compared to the rest of the industry, not an arbitrary standard. Okay. And then a role is a bunch of those. And so a company can say, okay, for a front-end web dev for us, it's got these 8 skills, and you have to pass these thresholds on each one in order to be a level 1 web dev. And then these thresholds are a level 2 web dev. And then if the company changes, decide they want to go in a different direction or adopt a new technology stack, they just rearrange what's in the role and retest everyone, and they know exactly where everyone's at. They know exactly which training they need, and they know exactly how they're progressing toward whatever their skill goal is. So it's a way to create a system of record for skill management, not just like a learning management system, which tends to just track what you've done. Mm-hmm. This is more tracking the progress and the outcomes.
So are those roles arbitrary in the sense that I get to determine what I want to be in a front-end web dev?
On our enterprise SKU, yeah, you build your own.
Okay, so otherwise there's some canned stuff, or?
Yep, we provide them.
Okay.
That's pretty cool, though. Myself as a learner, that allows me to see my progress over time and see, how I'm progressing toward the goal of being better in my role and mastering the skills that I need to do whatever my job function is that I'm trying to move into or whatever.
The other brilliant thing about it is, like, so many companies, especially in the software development world, they're dealing with 600 languages, 1 million frameworks, half of which are written in JavaScript. And so they often don't know what skills they actually have. Like, maybe I just hired you to be a front-end JavaScript developer. I might not, as a technology leader, I might not realize that you know a bunch of other stuff. Well, so once I figure out, okay, this is what the company's going to need, I can dump you in. I might find out you're in the wrong position. You shouldn't be a level 1 web dev. You should be like a senior web architect for us because you've got all those skills. So it lets you deploy people really effectively, and it lets your people see, look, this is how to get ahead. Like, these are the things that the company needs you to know. And if you learn them, and here's all the education, all right in front of you, all paid for. We've also launched interactive projects. So there's a hands-on component to it. They're all they're all software developer based right now. But the basic shtick is you clone a GitHub repo that we've set up, and then you watch a short video, and then you complete a challenge. You push a button, we go look at your repo, we pull your code into a container and run unit tests against it, and we tell you how you did.
So how many courses are enabled for that sort of interactivity?
There's a couple dozen right now. It's a heavy lift to build them, but it's an ongoing thing. There's always a new one coming around the bend.
Because I know when you guys bought Code School, before you kind of folded that stuff in, they had kind of a more interactive experience that I really liked.
Yeah, so that is still a thing. We call those interactive. The other things are called projects. So yeah, and
tell me about this, because I'm not familiar with that Code School.
So interactive Code School was originally one of these live coding in your web browser. So they would show you some videos, walk you through some training, and then as you're doing it, there's a pane in your browser where you're typing code and you're seeing it run. Now that's really easy with JavaScript because your browser runs JavaScript, and that's where they started. But then they started building back-end engines. So they've got .NET and Java and all kinds of stuff now. And it's entry level, because that type of training works really well for entry level. It doesn't work as well for expert level stuff. And so that provides an on-ramp to people to learn something new. And then they can start kind of, getting into the skill IQ and assessing where they're at and expanding their reach beyond those things.
So probably on the enterprise side, do you have the ability to kind of like assign courses and things to people?
Yeah. So a skills development leader in the admin role within our product does that. They can assign skills, they can assign roles, they can build all the roles if it's the enterprise SKU. They can track engagement, they can track what you've watched and how long you watched it, and all those other types of metrics. There's a huge reporting dashboard associated with it.
Would they also then use it? Can they produce internal training and publish it on your platform?
Not presently. That's ahead.
Okay.
Actually,
I mean, it sounds like you got all the trappings of the rest of a learning management system anyway.
That's
it
is sort of there now.
Yeah,
because there are some internal training stuff that I did for a product called PMG, and somebody else on my team put those videos into Pluralsight. It's only visible for our enterprise.
They didn't actually put the videos into Pluralsight. So we have a feature called Channels, which is basically a playlist that you can create and assign to your people, and that allows you to incorporate external content.
Okay, so it's just linking.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, pretty neat.
Yeah, it is. It's one of the reasons that I've never had a W-2 job for more than 4 years, and that the only one I've been for that long was the first job I ever had was an aircraft mechanic.
You were an aircraft mechanic?
Yeah, I was an F-14 mechanic, and I've now been at Pluralsight for longer than that, and it's such a fun company to work for, and it's such a great group of people to work with. I'm not, I never even wake up thinking, wow, is it time to leave?
I'm sorry, can we go backwards for a second? Can you expand on this aircraft mechanic thing?
Yeah, so I was an F-14 aircraft mechanic apprentice. The Navy at the time for depot level maintenance had a 4-year training program. It was civilians because enlisted guys. No, I was not enlisted. I was a civilian. Enlisted guys would only enlist for 4 to 6 years on their initial term, so it wasn't long enough to train them. And so they would use civilian employees, not contractors. I actually worked for the Department of the Navy. I was just a civilian. So you hear about civil servants, I'm a GS5 or a GS10 or whatever. I was a WG. So it's just a different pay grade.
Okay. Neat. So you worked on F-14s. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah. We took them apart, refurbed them, and put them back together.
Yeah. Okay, so back to the Pluralsight thing. So this is, because when I first met you, you were doing, starting to do training, you were writing, and you were speaking. And then you left another place, and then you were doing yourself. So I remember during that phase, you were not.
Yeah.
So, well, that's cool. So what has it been like since you went public? I mean, that's pretty exciting. I've done that one time.
It honestly, it hasn't been a ton different. The company has to be a little bit more careful about how they provide transparency to employees. They still do. They just have to make sure that they do it in a legally sane way, and that everyone's aware of, when we're in our quiet period, you can't usurp the earnings call and stuff like that. So apart from that, if anything, it feels like we're just able to move faster and harder. Like it's obviously a huge influx of money for a company because you're selling a portion of the company in exchange for money, and that gets turned around into investment. We've been growing. Like my employee number is 181, and I feel pretty sure we've passed 1,500. We may have passed it some time ago.
Wow.
Wait, what? Wow.
Yeah, like it's
crazy.
It's been fast. We've stood up entire product development teams, engineering teams. The content team has. I mean, it feels like it's quadrupled since I started. Not to mention all the sales functions and the marketing functions, and then the support of things like finance and people operations and all the things that have to help keep the company moving. It's huge.
Does the bulk of the content still come from your external authors, though?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, we've only got.
So it's still the engine to enable that platform.
Oh yeah. So,
by the way, anybody listening, it's a pretty good gig. I highly recommend. If you've got a skill. Do you want to talk about that? What's it like to be an author?
Ironically, I only authored one course for the company, but I've done that type of work for other platforms in the past. And you got to be a little disciplined about it. You got to kind of. I do my slides first. That's my outline. Mm-hmm. And then most of the things I teach are things that I've taught the story on enough that I can wing it. A lot of our authors actually script everything out. It's easier for them to narrate and then go do the demos that go with the narration and edit it together. So you've got to have a little bit of editing skills. Just simple stuff, Camtasia.
Yep.
And then you get paid a completion payment, which is usually a couple $1,000s or something like that. And then you get paid a viewership payment, which is functionally similar to a royalty. It's not legally a royalty. So we call it a viewership payment, but you earn a percentage of our revenue based on who watches.
That's cool.
How is it different from a royalty? I don't understand that distinction.
A royalty implies that you own the intellectual property and that you are licensing it to us. Mm-hmm. So like a book, that's how a book works. When you write a book for a traditional publisher, you're temporarily assigning them the copyright. And at some point that copyright will revert to you. And so what they pay you is a royalty. Because of the nature of our business, we don't do that. Our authors create stuff for us as a work for hire, which means we own copyright, but we pay them in a similar fashion. There's a legal differentiation for tax purposes, as well as how we report to foreign countries, because a lot of our authors don't live in the US. So we've just got to be careful about using the right terminology.
Okay. So, and then they don't own the content, right? So, I mean, I could not take that video that I recorded for you and publish it on YouTube.
No, you cannot.
Yep. So, David Lamb is asking in the chat, is it worth the work? It's a lot of work. But if it's got something that already, kind of like what you're saying.
We have some fairly famous cases. We have one author who's pulled down more than $1 million a year every year for quite some time. That's an edge case. We've got authors who easily pull in 300 or so. Like if it's a popular topic, if it's things people want to learn about, and if you are good, we have found that there is kind of a tipping point. If you have something you like at a restaurant, you're liable to go back to that restaurant and try something else. And it's the same thing with an author. If viewers connect with you, if they're learning from you and it feels good to them, they're going to see what else you've taught. Mm-hmm. So your payment checks tend to hit a tipping point at about 6 courses or so. Once you've got 6 in there, that's a lot for people to be able to watch, and you'll see a huge bump in your check. And then there's another tipping point at around, I think it's 15 or 20 or something like that, where it's like another big jump.
When you say 6 courses, how much material is that?
A course is nominally 2 hours plus or minus. That's not like a strict number. That's just how it works out to be. We don't actually have a strict guideline on it. Your payment is by viewership minute. So if you do a 6-hour course or 6 1-hour courses, it's all the same.
Okay. And then you're going to get paid based on how much people listen or watch or view or whatever.
Yep.
Specifically, so if they don't finish it, you're going to get paid less than if they were to, watch the whole thing through.
Yep, exactly.
And then I assume the interactive courses or in the more advanced, those types of more advanced learning opportunities are Pluralsight employee authors?
We produce those in-house.
Okay, yeah, that's what I figured.
Yeah, the complexity level there is just super, super high. We're working on some tooling so we can scale that out a bit and include our freelance authors, because a lot of them would be very, very good at it. But right now it would be physically painful for everybody involved, and we don't want to inflict it on anyone.
Sure, that makes sense. And one of the things that I've noticed is it seems like you can find multiple Pluralsight videos that cover the same content. And I've found, like I was learning, Go or something, and I watched a couple of different authors, and they were covering the same material, but there was one author that I liked a lot better than the other one. So I, stopped watching one course and just finished out the other course. And so I think it's good that there's a variety of options as a learner.
Yeah, nominally we don't commission the same content twice. Now, you may have something on PowerShell 3 and PowerShell 4 that are substantially the same, but it's really hard to tell a learner, no, just watch the version 3 stuff. Trust me, it's all the same. They want to watch the version that they're using.
Sure.
So you wind up with overlap in that fashion. But we have a fairly large curriculum team that tries to make sure we're not trying to be YouTube where we just throw a bunch of stuff at the learner. We're trying to give them the best that we can in every single topic.
Sure.
So it's a very curated library, but you will wind up with overlap just because of the nature of how things work.
It's funny you mentioned YouTube. I was just now thinking about, hey, there is competition. You're competing with free in some cases.
Yeah.
You're competing with cheap per course on some other platforms. Is there a substantial difference? I mean, you guys seem to be doing well with the subscription model. I like it.
Yeah, we're not really competing with them. Keep in mind, we're not just a dumpster full of videos. We're interactive. We're projects. We do skill assessments. We let technology managers manage a role's worth of skills across an entire team of multiple roles. So it's not like if you're in it as an individual and you're just paying the individual monthly, it might seem that way. But our real customer is the technology leader. We're there to help him or her skill up their team to wherever they need to move their business to. And businesses need to be agile, and that agility requires skills. So that's really, our core market. On the low end entry level stuff, like for JavaScript, HTML, yeah, there's a ton of places you can go. And if you're just an individual, I don't know that we're super compelling other than we've got some of the best educators on the planet doing that stuff. That right there is pretty good. It's hard to become a Pluralsight author. We have an audition process, and it's like single digit pass rates. Like we want to see teaching. We don't want to just see you, okay, I'm now going to run through a bunch of menu options and tell you what is to do. And we don't want that. And so if you're watching Pluralsight stuff, you know that whoever you're watching, even if they're a brand new author, has already kind of been through hell, and they've passed, and they deserve to be there, and they're in a very kind of elite company. So I think that's probably a differentiator at any level. But the fact that it's a platform that's all about skills management is really the thing. It's not just a whole bunch of videos.
So can you tell me what happens when something, some new technology comes along? Jonathan mentioned Go a little bit ago. Go becomes hot. Are you soliciting to find trainers to author content?
Yeah, we have a team of people who go out and hunt down experts for us.
Awesome. Cool. Anything else we missed on the Pluralsight front?
So when I took the job, Greg Shields and I took the job at the same time. This is back in 2014. We were doing really well at Contech, but we had both reached a point where we wanted to be able to contribute to something bigger, like more than just the two of us could do. And so we started talking to Pluralsight, and it seemed like a great fit. We really liked everybody there. And they said, look, we're not going to pay you anywhere near what you're making right now. Because Greg and I were doing, gangbusters business because it was just us and we got to keep all the money. Mm-hmm. We said, no, we get that. We understand that. But the opportunity to be part of something was enough. They said, well, we're going to issue stock to all of our employees. And I said, you know what? If that happens and this all works out and we IPO, because this was years before they were even really considering it. So if this all works, I will get the company's tattoo or company's logo, whatever it is at the time, tattooed on my leg. So I did. So I have a Pluralsight tattoo.
See it.
I don't think I can bend my body in that direction, Hal. I'm getting old. But I had it, so it's in a band of tattoos that's around my leg that are all my life achievements. That's where my Powershell tattoo is.
And I had it you unlocked achievements on you.
Yeah. So I had it positioned about half an inch lower than the rest of them on that band because I wanted to put my employee number on it. And I did some digging because I thought, Roman numerals, that's an obvious one, but it's not a very nice looking Roman numeral, 181. But 181 is the 42nd prime number. 42 is obviously a cool
nice
and we're building a brand new headquarters building in Draper, Utah, and our address is 42 Future Way. So I'm going to put the mathematical symbol for prime is alpha, the Greek letter alpha. So I'm putting 42 alpha above that.
Excellent.
That's some trivia for you.
Cool. So that doesn't keep you busy at all. I mean, Pluralsight, that's just just during the day.
It keeps me a lot busy. That's kind of why this is going to be my year to retire from PowerShell.org and retire from Summit.
So, but have you been maintaining that kind of speaking circuit, and have been writing any?
I've not really been doing much technical writing. I have been writing because it relaxes me. It's a nice hobby. I wrote a book called The Culture of Learning. These are all on LeanPub, by the way. I wrote a book called Instructional Design for Mortals. I obviously have Be the Master. That's in its 3rd edition now. I'm doing a workshop on that on Sunday. And I've just poked into fiction. So I've completed 2 science fiction novels, one of which is the first in a trilogy. I'm writing a superhero action kind of novel, and I've just started a fantasy novel that's kind of a grown-up version based around the Peter Pan story called The Never.
That's what that's about.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just looking at that because I read Alabaster last week, and I loved it.
Oh, thank you so much.
When's the next book of that trilogy coming out? Is that something you can talk about?
Yeah, I would expect it this year. I'm mapping through it right now. I tend to do a rough map. I've got a rough map for the whole trilogy.
Okay, sure.
So now I need to dig in and work the details out. And I find that I enjoy working on 2 books at once. So the superhero book will probably finish up first, and then I'll switch back to the Alabaster universe.
So the superhero book you're releasing kind of as you are writing it.
Yep, same as I did with Alabaster.
Okay, I guess I didn't know about it until after it had been released.
Yeah.
Because the version that I bought from from Amazon for my Kindle, it seemed like it had, probably had professional editors looking at it and that sort of thing.
Fun story there. It had Grammarly.com.
Okay.
And it had a wonderful member of the PowerShell community named Jim Top, who is both a music nerd and an English nerd. And since music plays so heavily into that book, he charged me nothing for his time. I eventually convinced him to accept an Amazon gift card because it was just so valuable. He's way better with commas than I am. But yeah, it got a really good pass.
Yeah, so that's cool. I'm gonna have to start reading the superhero book now.
So, I missed the memo on all these things. So I need you to introduce me to a couple of these, like Be the Master and Alabaster.
Sure. So Be the Master, I had written a blog post years ago called Be the Master or Go Away. And it came from kind of a place of rage where all these people would jump into the forums at PowerShell.org, ask questions, get an answer, and never be seen again. I said, you could come in and answer some questions, right? Like, we're all volunteers. Oh, I don't know enough. Like, here's the thing. If you're not on a path to being good enough, whatever the hell that means, then just go away. Like, just if you're just there to exist, then stop it. And so it was one of my most viewed blog posts. It got a lot of good feedback. I think a lot of people feel the same way. And I tried to be as polite as possible about the ragey bit. But I realized that it really could have been a lot more actionable. And so Be the Master is that. It's how to recognize your own worth as a person who has survived long enough to know things. Not everything, because every master is still an apprentice. We're all still learning all the time. There's no point at which you cross a line and now all of a sudden you know all the things. So it's realizing your own worth. It's achieving your own success, because for most people to feel confident enough to help others, they need to feel that they've gotten to a point on their own. And so the book really goes into how to describe what your success is, because it's different for everybody. How to describe who you are, who you want to be thought of as, and then how to actively help other people, bringing mastery into the work environment, looking outside the work environment for your apprentices, the people that you can help. And it's really just meant to be a very, very actionable, something absolutely any adult could engage in. There are stories of folks who read it and said, you know what, you're right. I do need to look outside the work environment. I've got a kid with special needs, and traveling with him is real difficult. I'm going to start a support group, and I'm going to teach other parents how we do it. And that's now a multi-city thing that this person, goes around and does. And it's just amazing to hear stories like that. So that's what that's all about. There's a whole book that goes with it. You can download, print it out as PDF. You can order a printed copy if you want.
We just missed part of that, Don.
Part of it is writing down your things, writing down your weekly goal. Like, this is my North Star. This is my success. Here's what I'm going to do this week. Here's the life rules that I'm going to live by. And here's how I did the previous week. And physically writing it down, it creates a really strong cognitive connection that typing doesn't. And you can get all metaphysical about the joy of holding a physical book. I prefer a Kindle myself. But when you're trying to accomplish something and you're trying to change yourself, you're trying to change your habits, you're trying to change your outlook, those extra physical steps do a lot. Like, your brain builds neurons based on the number of sensory inputs it's getting. If it's just getting visual, that's one thing. If it's getting visual, tactile, the smell, the noises that are going on around you, those build stronger memory patterns, and those change behaviors. So that's actually what my workshop Sunday is there's a group of 12 of us that we're going up to in Bellevue before a summit, and we're gonna go through the whole program.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's kind of awesome. So, question for you: what if somebody in this line of thinking here, if you are in an environment where there's not a lot of feeling of excellence, there's not a lot of support of trying to improve yourself, at what point do you think about and this is actually not what I'm talking about in my own situation, in case anybody's wondering, but I see it in a couple of other places, and I'm like, why are you still there?
Why are you still there?
What should someone work to improve themselves and by perhaps be a leader to others around them, or is that more of a futile endeavor? And should you?
No, it's never futile. It's never futile to try to improve your own condition, and it's certainly never futile to try and improve the condition of other people. Frankly, if that was the thought we all had in our day every time we woke up, we wouldn't have most of the problems we've got. We wouldn't have the government we've got. We'd have a better one that was a little more compassionate. So it's never futile. There's a couple things there. One is that it's always scary to leave a job. If it's holding you down, like if it's paying the bills and you got a family to support, it's scary to leave a job. It's easier sometimes to be miserable at a job than to leave it, and I get that. I think the interview process, the job search process is painful, especially for computer people, because we're such introverts. Like, we do not want to engage in those activities at all. I don't. So yeah, if you're not in the environment that fits you, you should leave. You just should. And most people probably know they should. But if you can't, remember that it's just work. There's a time boundary around that, and you should enforce that time boundary, and you should use the rest of your time to improve yourself and improve the lives of other people. Maybe you're just going out to the local boys club on weekends and teaching the kids how to set up a Wi-Fi router. Give them some of that stuff that you just don't get anymore now that we've all got Eros that make it, plug it in and it works. It's magic. Well, it's not magic, and someone needs to remember how that works. There's so many things that you can do to help other people, even in tiny, small ways. One letter I got from a guy, and this one kind of choked me up at first. And it's on the website is bethemaster.com, and there's a testimonial page, and it's on there. He said, I realized that I was not being the master to the two most important apprentices, which was my own kids. I had never taught my daughter to ride a bike. He said, so now I'm making sure that I set aside time to do that. And that's enough. Like, that's going to improve their lives. It's going to improve your life. It's not like you need to, reach 10,000 people. You just need to help the people that you can help in the way that you can. And it doesn't have to be at work all the time.
One of the things that I have done with my son along those lines is I have had him fix things with me.
That's great.
And I've had him, I've told him how to fix things, and, he's done all the work. I've just been there to guide him. And now he has built his own workshop in my basement, and he's doing like wood and metal working. And he made this batarang out of a piece of steel that looks really awesome.
And so now the thing that you can teach him is how to teach other people how to do that.
Right. That makes sense.
Really early. Because we have this horrible relationship with education, right? You go to school, you're in second grade, your teacher doesn't want to hear from you. He doesn't want to hear from you unless you're just spouting off the right answer to a question he or she asked. And we carry that all the way through high school. We carry it all the way through college. At what point are we good enough to teach? Even something small. Like, teach someone how to operate a miter saw. How good do you have to be? And so I think the thing that people with kids really can do is teach your kids, obviously, but teach your kids to not always just be the apprentice. Teach them to also be a journeyman and a master who can teach other people. So I'll tell you the reason I use this whole analogy. I'll step back a bit. Do you guys know who the U.S. patent system is designed to protect? Like, why is the patent system a thing?
To protect,
Disney.
Yeah, Mickey Mouse, intellectual property.
No, it's not there to protect the inventor. It may be used that way these days, but the system was created because we were deathly afraid that someone would invent something wonderful and die, and we would not know how to reproduce the invention. So in exchange for telling us very clearly how to build the invention, we would grant you a monopoly on it for a certain amount of time. And that was the deal. It was there to protect society. And the monopoly bit of it was just it was bait.
I think we lost our way on that one a little bit.
Well, you always do. The medieval system of mastery and apprenticeship was the same thing. If your village had a blacksmith, you needed that blacksmith. The village had to have that to survive. And so masters would charge an apprenticeship fee to take on an apprentice, and that would help offset their loss of productivity, the presumption goes. But that apprentice was there not to protect the master, it was there to protect the village, so that they would learn the trade, they would come up in the trade, and they would eventually be able to take on a mastery of their own and run the blacksmith when the master died. So it's exactly the same thing. It's our fear of death that led us to those things. We've lost a lot of that. We rely on formal education, which is really minimally effective for most topics. There's a few trades where we still practice apprenticeships, although we don't call it that. The legal trade, where you have to intern, the medical trade, where you have to intern and go through a residency. Those are technically apprenticeships in every way that matters. But we lose a lot of knowledge all the time. Like, it's really hard to find a 20-year-old now who might be working in IT who knows how to subnet, because we don't teach it formally and you don't work with it. And so it's just not there. Even though you may have gone to 4 years of college and gotten a computer science degree, you don't know the fundamental way that our networks operate. So I think apprenticeships are both formal and everyday informal are an extremely compelling thing. And even if all you're doing is we all try to look ahead in our career. What's next for me? What am I going to do next? I'm going to try and get this promotion, and then maybe I'll go to a different company and make more money, and I'll get a promotion there. Just do that. You have to do that. You must do that. But occasionally, stop, turn around, and look behind you at who might need a hand up. Because if you're running around the world with a bunch of people behind you that you've been helping pull along, you're never going to have a problem with finding a new job. You're never going to have a problem building a company or a team or whatever else. But if you're on your own, then, you're on your own.
And one thing that I know I have fallen into is that, I will become the master of my area of work and, whatever I'm working on. And, I'm become the expert that people come to. And the problem with that is if you're the expert, one of the problems is they're not going to move you someplace else.
Nope.
Because they need you there. So in order to move, you've got to get somebody else up to your level so that you can move.
So how does the blacksmith take a vacation?
Yeah, exactly.
You have an apprentice and maybe a couple journeymen. And eventually, like if you gain true expertise, and expertise and mastery are different things. You can be a master blacksmith and not know how to make a sword, but you know how to make other things, right? So it's important to separate mastery and expertise. But if you've truly become an expert in something, then most good companies will see that you're more valuable as a force multiplier, helping 10 other people do that thing than just doing it yourself. And you create failover. Right? You build a cluster of people, and if someone needs to go, then you've got other people to take on the workload. So there's smart companies get that. Not all companies are smart. Especially the technology industry, we should abandon those companies and let them die because they have no place in the market.
So as a bit of a callback to where we were talking about Pluralsight, and now we're talking about teaching and education. What do you think is the best way to bring, where am I going with this? People learn differently.
Yeah.
The public school system is built to produce a certain output.
Yeah, it teaches one thing one way.
Yeah. And there are other options. You've got private schools. You have charter schools, which are a bit of a blend. You've got online education now, which is crazy in the scope of things, in Pluralsight and beyond Pluralsight. So I'm kind of, like where do you see, people being able to, kind of turn themselves into better people, using this kind of broader technology? It's not about technology, really.
I think it's not one thing. It's everything. Like one problem that one of the many reasons we don't call ourselves a learning management system is because we don't manage learning. We try to manage outcomes. And most companies don't account for all the learning that happens in the corners. Two people talking to each other. You figured out something on Google. Like most of us are learning something all the time. We just don't think about it as learning, but it is. We've just been taught that learning requires you to be in a classroom or watching a video or listening to an audio tape. And I think improving your life is less about learning because the learning is there if you want it. It's setting yourself a goal. Like so many of us, and the reason people don't learn, and the reason, like you run into companies all the time where they say, we just can't get people to watch the training. Most of us we start off as passengers in our lives, right? We just kind of, think about the last job you got that you actually really tried for, as opposed to, oh, somebody asked me about it, or I saw it, it was an opportunity and I seized it. That's fantastic. But most of us don't drive our lives. We're passengers. We might take the right off ramp at the right time when we see it, but we didn't know we were going there until we were there. Mm-hmm. And that's part of the whole, the define your whole success, define your success. What is in 20 years, what are you going to look back on and say that you did? And that might change. 2 years from now, your North Star might be different. And that's fine because you adjust, life occurs. But what is it right now? And how do you navigate toward that goal? Like what's the GPS telling you to do to get there? Most of us, though, we don't have the GPS. We don't have the destination set. We're just driving around hoping to find an off-ramp. So I don't think it's so much about, how do you learn? Most people know how they learn. It's you don't want to unless you need to. And to need to, you're going to need a destination.
So I have an idea, something that I've implemented at work that I'm going to mention if we get far enough down the list of the lightning talks to get to mine.
Okay.
One of the things I'm going to talk about, do you remember office hours in college?
Yeah. Well, I didn't go to college.
So,
but I know what you're talking about.
You understand the concept.
Yeah.
We have a product, an orchestration tool that I'm kind of the platform owner for. And we have a lot of people who we're trying to essentially do orchestration as a service. So we're providing the tool. We've got some video training. I did in-person training, recorded that, made video training, to try and get people up to speed. And what I found is that people would get excited during the training, and they would start, and then they would stop.
Yep.
So one of the things that I thought of, because my son's in college, and which made me start thinking about office hours, I have started doing office hours at work. So I have set time between 2 and 4 every week on Tuesdays and Thursdays, where in a Slack channel, we'll start a meeting. And you can come and just ask me and one of the guys I work with, ask us anything. We'll help you build your workflow. A lot of times, they ask PowerShell questions, whatever it is. I'll help you build it. Help you get past your sticking point. And that.
Do lurkers show up as well to listen?
Every once in a while, and normally it's not busy. Sometimes we'll have days where nobody joins, and we'll have other times we'll have we're working on it Tuesday, and then we're working on it again on Thursday to try and help this team get past this hurdle. But it has been successful in that other teams are starting to do it now. So it's an idea that's growing.
It's an incredibly effective technique. I've worked with a ton of companies that have people in senior positions do that. We do it across multiple groups inside Pluralsight. It can be very, very effective, and it's a good casual, informal. It's of the moment learning, right? It's learning in the moment of need.
Yes,
and that's some of the most effective, because once your brain is primed for a problem, it's also primed for a solution.
And it also helps me because it's on my calendar, and I have time set aside specifically to help people.
Yep.
So
and it gets done that way.
And if they come up to me, if I get a drive-by and they need help with something, and it's on a Tuesday and it's noon, I say, hey, why don't you come to office hours at 2? And we can spend some time, and I can work on it with you. We'll screen share, and I'll talk you through it. And it's been good.
Yeah, and that preserves some of your time too, so that you can still be productive. And that's something that I think a lot of companies struggle to come to grips with is, well, if I'm going to have so-and-so and he's going to be the master in the group, then he's not going to get anything done. It's like, no, that's not true. Masters still make horseshoes, right? They're still functional. They still work. It's just about how you manage that time. And if they can take a couple hours to help 5 other people, then you're going to have 6 productive people, not just 1.
Yeah. And one of the things that's been great is we've had a couple people who would show up every week, and then they stopped showing up because they didn't need us anymore.
Yeah. Well, that's what you want, right? You want to put yourself out of business.
I just said something similar to that in chat when we were talking about what was it? If you focus on mastering teaching, there's always going to be a place for you. If you lose a job, you'll have another place. And then I said, when I started to call myself an engineer, I set a goal of engineering myself out of a job.
Yeah, that's the
mindset
idea.
that I chose. And knowing that if I succeed at that, I get to level up.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You make room behind you, and you can get pushed up. So, John, is this the first PowerShell Summit that you're going to be at personally?
Yes. The last time I was at a PowerShell Summit, it was called the Experts Conference.
Yes. Yeah, the origin story. Yeah. Well, that's fun. You'll get to meet the whole. You've probably met most of the team. You've met Will. I don't know if you've met James. He's doing the financial side of things, although he's really doing a lot more than that now. And then Jeff Burnt is taking over for Christopher, doing all of our logistics.
Oh, okay.
So next year, Chris and I will be fully out.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to next week.
It's going to be fun. It should be a blast.
Are these things all recorded?
We record the breakout sessions. So we've got 4 tracks of breakouts running 2.5 days, roughly, a little bit more. We don't record the general sessions on Monday because they tend to be very of the moment type things. But all the breakouts are, yeah. And they'll go up on our YouTube channel just as they always have.
So, I mean, it's obviously too late for people to sign up this year because it's over. But what about Europe?
So we don't run Europe.
Okay.
That's a group led by Tobias Waltner. That's PS Conf Europe, and there's another PS Conf in Asia, run by Matt Hitchcock and some other guys. So I don't know what their situation is. I do know that James and Will are batting around, and they've run a survey. If you look at the PSH.org Twitter feed, there's been a survey popping up every so often. They're seriously toying with the idea of starting an East Coast show.
Oh, okay. So they do twice a year, one on each coast.
Yeah, because we're up to 400 people, and that's enough. It's not going to get any bigger than that. So the only way to accommodate more people, and we had a wait list this year that was pushing 200. And I know not everybody who signs up for the wait list is serious, but still, it was 200. So even if an East Coast show reduces the Bellevue show to 300 or 350, that's fine. But it would let us serve more people, and there's clearly an interest. And it really has gone so much beyond PowerShell. There's obviously a ton of that there, but it's a tool in the larger scheme of DevOps. And they talk about a lot of the other DevOps tools and philosophies and practices and everything else, and it's really been effective for people.
Atlanta's not a bad place. You can get a direct flight to Atlanta from pretty much anywhere.
I am not in charge.
Have to put that bug in Will's ear next week.
I will be the past. Well, I think they are asking on the survey. I know they've been looking at a few different places. Just costs and like you say, air travel, accessibility, and all that.
It'll be Atlanta.
It probably won't be Atlanta, but I hope it will be.
If I could change topics a little bit, I did want to hear more about Alabaster.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, so it's tough for me to talk about the plot without giving stuff away.
Then I can challenge you in a different way. Then,
so,
where were you when you were trying to write this book?
Oh, everywhere. Here in Vegas, up at the cabin. I wrote some chapters in Hawaii on vacation.
How long have you had the idea for the book?
Yeah, so that is probably the second novel idea that I ever had. The Never was the first, and I probably batted it around for close to 8 to 10 years.
That seems to be, I don't know if typical is the case, but I'm a big Scott Sigler fan.
Yeah.
And a lot of his books that really hit, he started, writing when he was like 7, or he had the idea when he was a kid. And, finally, as an adult, he could express what he saw in his head properly.
Yeah, that took a long time. It was definitely a journey for me. So that the first fiction book I wrote was called A History of the Galactic War. And it's a textbook from 1,000 years from now, looking back at the multi-planet galactic war that we have yet to experience. And it's got, at the end of every chapter, there's additional reading and there's review questions, just like a real textbook. And part of that was an attempt to kind of accommodate the fact that I hadn't developed a voice for writing fiction. So I didn't have to write dialogue. Everything's in the past tense. It's that very kind of semi-stilted textbook style of writing. And it let me focus on the plot sequencing and everything else. So I had a good time writing the book. Alabaster, I probably rewrote the first half dozen chapters 6 or 7 times before I felt it felt good, like it read good. I'd write a few, I would put them down, I would come back a week later and I'd read them, and I'd feel a certain way, and so I'd In some cases, I just deleted and started over. That happened a couple times. Once I found a groove, it went a lot faster for me, and I really came to enjoy it. I have backstories for the characters actually written down, so I don't forget when I go back and revisit. But the basic shtick of it is there's a planet out there called Achilleos, and it was colonized umpty, God knows how many hundreds of years ago by humans, and they deliberately didn't take a lot of their technology with them. They wanted to create a more pastoral society that was free of all the strife and everything else. There's no Facebook, there's no internet.
You're telling me stuff I don't know from the book.
So that's kind of where that comes from. But where we enter the book is they've developed a fairly medieval society. It's city states essentially. Every city is its kind of own government, and they run themselves differently. Some of them have kings, and some of them are more democratic and just kind of easygoing. But they've got these machines, these magic machines that are embedded in the heart of the city, that they can kind of control, and they can use them to control the weather. They can put sunlight on their fields. They can generate like shields that will hold the humidity in, because this one city is in a very, very arid desert area. And they don't know much about how they work or what they do, but they know what they can get done, and they're using these things to survive. And we kind of open with every year, there's only certain people who can use these machines. Like the machines will only respond to certain people, and they really don't know who or why. So every year they have a choosing day, and everyone who's turned a certain age has to go to the tower that sits in the center of the city of Alabaster, and the monks, the servants, they test everyone. And there's a machine that you sit in, and it lights up, and if it lights up, then off you go. You're into the tower now, and they pay off your parents. And our main protagonist skipped his test because he was sick, and they never made him retake it. So he's coming along to accompany his mother and his younger brother, and they both wind up being selected into the tower, and our adventure kind of goes from there. And they wind up learning a lot about what reality really is, and we learn a lot about what's happening elsewhere on the planet. The next book is much more continent wide. We'll visit a lot more cities and learn a lot more about the backstory for everything there.
Cool.
So yeah.
So one thing that I really appreciate is I think you've honed your communication skills for so long. You've written technical books that are a joy to read, which is rare. And one of the things that I've noticed in reading Alabaster is that it was very easy for your words to make images in my mind. It was very easy for me to see what was going on, which is not always the case with some fiction and with some science fiction. And that's one of the things I really appreciate. And it's not, you're concise, I'm trying to think of the right word.
I struggled with that because I'm so used to writing concisely. Writing for magazines ruined me for flowery prose. Mm-hmm. And the first couple of drafts, like, I know what the story is in my head, and I know what the ending is. I know what the big reveal is, and I just want to get there as fast as possible.
Oh, sure.
I'm like 5,000 words in, and I'm like, whoa. This is going too fast. And that's why I would have to keep redoing it. And I had a really good group of beta readers who would hit me and say, you're talking about them walking down the street. What kind of street is it? Is it dirt? Is it paved? Is it stone? Is it asphalt? Like, what's the temperature like? Is it dusty? I'm like, okay, yep. Good point. So I went back and added a lot of that detail. So it's as much their credit for reminding me that's why we read books like this. But Alabaster helped me with that enough that when I stopped doing that and I got into PowerWave, I decided to start The Never, because that's the story I've wanted to write probably for 20 years.
Okay.
And I've sketched it, but I was afraid I would ruin it, or I would come, too quickly to the point. So I'm super, super happy with how it's going. I spent a lot of time on each of those chapters, and it's pure fantasy. There's no science fiction, but it is you can get on leanpub.com and look up The Never. You can go to leanpub.com/u/Don Jones, and it'll show you all my books. But read the abstract for it, and that will really, you'll be like, oh, I see exactly what this is about.
That's very cool. Yeah, I'm very excited for the next, the sequel to Alabaster. You've hooked me, sir. Well done.
Excellent. Now, do you buy that? Do you do Kindle Unlimited?
So that one I did Kindle Unlimited, and then I bought Be the Master on Kindle, and then I found out I already have it on LeanPub somehow. I must have bought it a while ago and never read it or something. I don't know.
Well, there's 3 different versions, so you may have a previous one too.
Okay. Yeah, that could be. Yeah, but the next one, whatever format it's in, I'm going to buy.
Yeah, so when I do those, I always do them on LeanPub. I do them chapter at a time. I'm very happy for feedback from people. It's genuinely helpful. There's a lot of people who can see their changes in Alabaster, I guarantee. And then when it's done, it goes into the Kindle Direct program, and they make a paperback version. They make the Kindle version. It goes into Unlimited, the Kindle Owner's Lending Library, and all that BS that Amazon does. Do
you have a lot of people who read your LeanPub books?
Yeah.
Or is it mainly once you convert it over to Amazon, that's when when the readership really starts to go up?
You'll get reader count on Amazon.
Okay.
But no money. Like, there's no money in selling books on Amazon, unfortunately. So for like Kindle Unlimited, they essentially take all the Kindle Unlimited fees for the month, and they create the global fund. And then they divvy up the global fund by how many pages were read across the entire month. And then you get a percentage of however many. It's almost the Pluralsight model. We do minutes. They do what's called a normalized page read.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So did you choose to have that available for Kindle Unlimited, or how does that work?
You can publish flat per purchase Kindle or program, which is Kindle Unlimited and the Kindle Owner's Lending Library. And you do opt into those. And I did mainly because as a new author, it's a good way to get a little bit of extra exposure.
Sure.
It is likely the sequels will not be like you can.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You can get the first one for cheap, but the next one you're going to have to pay $5.
Right. I will willingly pay that. No, that's very interesting. I'm glad that I can tell that you're enjoying writing the fiction, which makes me very happy.
It's super relaxing. I honestly came to a point where I was enjoying my new job at Pluralsight so much, helping run curriculum and then moving into content partnerships, that the idea of sitting down and writing another technical book was depressing.
Okay.
Like I could not, I just couldn't do it. And the last one I did was the one I did with Jason, the PowerShell for Noobs. And I don't think I have another technology book in me. Partially because I've told the story so many times, partly because I don't work with it anymore. Like, it's not something I do every day. I'm so much more interested in the running a business and the strategy behind that, and helping the people who work for me in their careers. But I did miss writing. And so it was Chris who finally said, why don't you write one of these novels you've always talked about? Like, okay, we'll try that.
Well, good. That's great. And then you've got, things like Be the Master, that it's not a technical book, but it's helping people.
Yeah, and it's one I feel really strongly about. And every time I hear from someone who said, it changed my outlook a little bit, and now I'm doing this thing that's been really great for me or my family or my friends or whatever else, it makes me want to keep it up. I'm really happy with where the 3rd edition sits. I don't know, I have no immediate plans for 4th edition. I think the story's really, really there. And I added a lot more storytelling to the 3rd edition. So there's more, there's more examples from my friends and colleagues and things like that, that, kind of hopefully make it a little more personal. The instructional design for Mortals came out of necessity. It was something that I needed to be able to share with some of our Pluralsight authors, but I really enjoyed writing it. I wanted an instructional design book that wasn't some academic talking down to me, like, okay, boo-boo, we're going to talk about the instructions now, or talking so highfalutin that I couldn't even connect it to reality. So this is literally instructional design for normal human beings who speak English. And then culture of learning was one that I wrote a little bit out of rage because I started talking to all these companies who were like, oh yeah, we have a culture of learning. I'm like, no, you don't. You want people to take training on their own time. That's not a culture of learning. That's horrible human beingship. So I wrote a book because you think about a culture, like how, when I say, I'm going to go experience a new culture, what are some of the things that you would expect to be experiencing as part of that new culture? How?
I'm thinking.
Okay. Well,
so new language,
a new language,
new culture. Yeah,
new language.
Everything's different, but language is probably one of the easiest ones.
Probably new food. Probably different systems of governance. Probably different economic systems.
Different traffic laws.
That's what a culture is. It's all of those things. And a true culture of learning has a language. It has a system of governance. It has a system of economics. It has its own rules and laws. It has all those things. And so that's what that book is about. It's like, look, if you think your company has a culture of learning, this is what that means. And like, test yourself. Are you really there, or is it just a buzzword that you heard and you're using?
So are you planning to, I don't know, what do you describe that book as? It's like a business book, like a
kind of, yeah, business book.
Are you going to continue to do that sort of writing, or do you think you'll focus on fiction?
No, as it comes to me, like as the need for something becomes apparent to me, like I think it's a need, then I probably will. I'll continue. They're easy books to write. They're short, so they're easy books to read. And I try to keep them very concise because I know people reading that type of thing don't have a lot of time in their lives. There's a couple topics I've kind of batted around in my head, but haven't really landed on yet. So it'll be fiction until then.
Well, I hope your fiction takes off, and I hope you're a very successful fiction writer, so that you will write more.
I'm excited.
Movie rights,
getting into
HBO.
Alabaster. I mean, it sounds like something that it sounds like a kind of story that is in a place and it has a mood that I want to learn more about.
Yeah, it is. Well, I look for you. You'll have to tell me what you think.
Yeah, I can talk to you more about that next week if I get a chance to chat with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So how do we do this, Jonathan? It's been so long since
So usually we ask Don what's a good way for people to contact him, get in touch.
That's a good one.
See what he's got going on. Where do you find his Lean Pub books, all that cool stuff?
Yep, the Lean Pub stuff is leanpub.com/u/Don Jones. Be the Master has its own website. That's bethemaster.com. And then anything else is donjones.com. And there's a hit me up HMU link because the robots don't find that, like they find the word contact. And that's got a contact form. You can also hit me up on Twitter at @concentratedDon.
And you've been tweeting a lot about the what do you call it? Pay what you want on Lean Pub. Yep. I've seen that a lot in the last week or so. A couple weeks.
About 9 of my books. A lot of the technical ones are set to a minimum price of $0 with a recommended price of $5, $7, $10, whatever. And I've just asked that, people consider that I had to take time to do those and that I would like to be repaid for that time, just as they get repaid when they go to work and do their jobs. It is my job to do those things. It's not a hobby.
Right.
So I don't know what circumstance everyone is in. Like if there's a book there for someone who's completely unemployed and cannot afford $1 and they think it will help, fine, cool. Go get the thing. If you're super successful later and you want to send me the $10 on PayPal, we can figure that out then. They're not meant to be free. They're pay what you think they're worth.
That makes sense.
And there are free samples. So you can download a free sample. And if you're like, yeah, this is worth $5, then you can go officially buy the whole thing for the whatever. And you can drag a little slider and it shows you how much you're paying and how much of that comes to the author.
Yeah, I like those systems.
I do too.
You feel like you have kind of control and it's kind of you have a closer relationship with the author.
Yeah, and that's what I want. The other two, the two main books that are the PowerShell Scripting and Toolmaking book and the DSC book. we're in distribution agreements on those. So I have a co-author on both of them, obviously. Those are conversations. Missy and I have talked about open sourcing the DSC book. Jeff and I haven't really talked about the scripting and toolmaking book much, but I'm not going to be able to contribute to it going forward. I don't know what his level is. We'll probably talk about it this week at Summit, and we'll come to some kind of decision about the future of that.
And then I see that did you originally start with Adam on the Pester book, and then he just completely took that over? Is that?
Yeah, we co-authored it, and then I gave him the manuscript and stepped away.
Okay. I thought I remembered something about that.
Yeah.
Awesome. There are some of these books that I didn't even know about. Tales of the Icelandic Troll.
That was a hobby. That was a very personal hobby book. So I have a friend that was my best friend in Big Brother when I was growing up. And got me through all the teen angst that everyone goes through. And we both belonged to a Star Trek fan club, and we had a lot of fun. We mainly did we would wear our Trek uniforms and go to the children's hospital and try and cheer the kids up.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
And then we would run around in the woods on weekends and play laser tag. But it was a Navy town, so the makeup changed, and it started to get like, how some clubs will just get political for no reason whatsoever. Like, you don't even understand how you make politics out of that.
Yeah.
We didn't enjoy it. And we both drifted out of it. And he said, I like that universe, and I like to just play in that universe. And so I'm going to have a combination garbage scow and search and rescue, because he enjoyed doing search and rescue for the Navy. And it's going to be called the Icelandic Troll. And so we would make up stories about it all the time, just for fun. And they were mostly goofy and silly. And that's what that is. It's a lot of those stories. It's a lot of science fiction folk songs that have been recast as a story, and they're all characters. Like they're all us, but none of us were ever that. And so I have an IT, Icelandic Troll, not information technology. Icelandic Troll was my first IT. I had a scar burned in the back of my hand.
Awesome. Well, I just dropped a link to the Icelandic Troll sample in the chat, in case anybody wants to see that.
Yeah, and that one's free too. But the sample, I believe, is the exact same thing as the full book, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and I think I'm pretty sure I heard about How to Find a Wolf in Siberia.
Oh yeah,
which is all about, that's like troubleshooting methodology. Is that what that one's about? Okay.
It's about how to give yourself a troubleshooting brain. It's honestly something that every single person in IT should own and read. It's not a big book, but I really spent about 4 years writing that book, because it took a lot of soul searching. I really paid attention to how I troubleshoot things and how I watch other people do or struggle. So yeah, that was a labor.
I cannot think of, are there any, well, that was weird. Are there any other books like that actually teach you how to troubleshoot, like mindset of troubleshooting?
Yeah, there is. Let me see if I can find the website real quick while we're sitting here. Get out of my way, Skype. Type.
Because there's...
It's troubleshooters.com.
Okay.
I feel fairly... Yeah, and he's written some books, and there's like 28 Tales of Troubleshooting. I bought these things. He's got the right mindset. Oh yeah, this is pure 1980s. He's got the right, like, I won't say right, I'm not right. I agree with his mindset. I don't love the way he approached it. Like this 28 Tales of Troubleshooting, I love the idea of teaching by storytelling, but the first one is a novel, and I didn't find it to be particularly easy to read.
Okay.
And maybe it's because I'm a writer, but it got so in my way. But no, apart from that, there is literally nothing, which is why I'm like, someone has to do this. Like, it's such a pain. Someone has to.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, that ding, by the way, was me being asked to bring a bottle of red up to our terrace. So I'll have to do that in a minute.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, we'll let you go soon. One of the reasons I want to read that book is there are things that happen in my brain when I'm troubleshooting that I don't understand because they don't even happen consciously.
Yeah.
There are entire realm, like I'll be troubleshooting with somebody else and they'll want to go down a path and I'm like, no, it can't possibly be that.
Right.
And then they'll ask me why and I'll be like, and if I think about it hard,
then you know.
Then I know. But I didn't even think about the fact that I knew. I just knew. I'm just like, no, it can't be that.
No, you've already asked the things in your head, and your brain will do that. But it initially, some people are just good at it. It just happens.
Yeah.
Some people have to work at it, and once you do work at it, it does become automatic and reflexive. And that's the book is kind of like, look, here's the steps. Like there are numbered steps. Do this every single time you troubleshoot, and your brain will start shortcutting some of them for you eventually.
Nice. That's great. I'm really glad you wrote that book. I need to read it now and recommend it to other people I work with. And
that is another pay what you think it's worth.
Excellent. Yeah, so we'll have a link to all this stuff, and it'll be on PowerShell.org if you look for this. This is podcast 324, or you can just search for Don Jones podcast and you'll find this episode and the other episodes that he's been on.
I wish there had been several. But it's been a while. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I learned that you were an F-14 mechanic. That was news to me. I thought I knew everything about Don Jones. No, I love exploring the, kind of the mastery side as well. I mean, because you did PowerShell for so long, and then you became known for just kind of speaking in general. But you kind of refined some areas of of what you're about, and I really appreciate hearing about it.
Oh, thank you. It's fun to talk about.
And thanks for everybody in the chat room who also seem to share appreciation of learning, teaching, becoming a little better, picking apart the thoughts of troubleshooting. So I see a lot of similar themes in the folks that are following along. Alrighty, Jonathan.
Cool.
Well, thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful night.
Thanks. Take it easy, guys.
See you next week.
Say hi to Chris for me.
We'll do. Safe travels, John.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.
It's good to talk to Don again.
Yeah, definitely. Good to talk again.
Yeah.
I do miss podcasting.
Yeah, you should read Alabaster. It's short. It's like 200 pages, but I think you'll enjoy it.
I bought it, looked up my send to Kindle address, configured the send to Kindle thing, told BleemPub to send it. I did all this while we were talking.
Nice. I had to get past the first part because I knew it was a science fiction book, and the way it starts, you're like, I thought this was a science fiction book, but kind of push past that. Mm-hmm. And once they get in the tower, things start to get interesting.
You ever read a book and you get like midway through it and you're like, I don't know what this book is about? That bugs me. Like I forget what it was. Like there was no tension. Usually have like Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, finale, whatever. I was reading a book that was just kind of like going like this. It was just kind of humming along, and it wasn't building up to anything. And I got like 40%, 50% through this book. I'm like, I'm just going to stop reading.
Yeah, I've done that before too. Rarely, but that's usually why. It's like, well, nothing's grabbing my attention. I don't care anything about these characters. There's some characters that I just don't like. Why am I reading this?
Yeah. I've been out of habit of reading for a while, and I don't know why. But I'm looking forward to getting back into some. I need to make a spot with reading time or something, because I've just been too much, short attention span, just Reddit posts and stuff.
It's really easy to fall into that.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I was glad when I started reading Alabaster that it got me into it pretty quick. Mm-hmm. And then it was over, and I'm like, where's the next book? Oh, cool. I get to talk to Don next week. I can ask him.
Oh, look, it showed up. I don't know if you can see it on the camera.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
I'm going to read now.
Good. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did or more.
Cool. All right. Well, man, it was good to be on the radio with you again.
Yeah, I'm glad you can make it. Excellent.
Definitely. So what's next?
So let's see, 3 weeks out. Is it? I'd have to go look at the Trello board.
Guest submissions. Yep, I've got it right here. Board not found. Maybe I'm not logged in. I'm not logged in.
It's already scheduled. I think it's on my calendar.
I need to check because I'm having calendars because I didn't have anything on my calendar for this time or last time. So I was like, okay,
yeah, I didn't for last time, but that just was just a technical.
Jan Mulkins, Ryan Bartram, James Honeycutt.
So this should be.
And then to be scheduled, Adam Bertram, Tim Warner, Josh Duffney, Garrett Sarek, and Aaron Nelson.
So the next thing we have scheduled
Todd Clint.
is, Todd Clint on May 15th.
All right, awesome. Well, there you go, everybody. Todd Clint. So he's still doing, last time I talked to him was, SharePoint is what he was all about. It's funny how, like, I see several of these names, like we've talked with these guys, but it was like, I have to think about, oh, wow, that must have been 6 years ago now.
Yeah, exactly.
So, cool. How was the conversation with Joel? I know he's been in the chat room. Hi, Joel.
Oh, it was good. Joel was great.
Sorry I missed it. I don't remember what was up, but I remember that I was unable to come for some reason. I don't remember what it was, but I regretted it. Just know that for the record.
Is that when you were you in
I was
Orlando?
Yeah, I was not home. I don't remember where I was. Maybe I was in Orlando, but I was not home. So, hey, thank you for coming, David, and Adil, and everybody. Okay,
I had some.
Apparently, I was in Orlando.
I had some stickers made up with our logo that I'm going to take next week when I go to give out. So that should be fun.
Awesome. Where's the summit?
It is in Bellevue,
Okay.
Washington. I don't think it's the same. I think it's close to where the MVP Summit stuff happens.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it's quite the same. I don't think it's the same hotels. But I'm not exactly sure.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to figure that out the other day.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, and the PowerShell team's going to be there or to do some sessions and hang out and stuff. So it should be good.
Oh, that's cool. Well, tell everybody I said hey.
I will.
And trying to think of like how's where's something that we can intersect in again. We can do another podcast episode. So that'll happen.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, I am feeling that my day is done. I need to go turn in, and maybe I'll get a few pages read before I go to bed.
Cool.
Good night, everybody.
All right. Good night.
Thanks for coming, hanging out with us.